Seems like all I could see was the struggle. Haunted by ghosts that lived in my past. Bound up in shackles of all my failures. Wondering how long is this gonna last? Then you look at this prisoner and say to me, son, stop fighting a fight, it's already been won. And I am redeemed. You set me free. So I'll shake off these heavy chains and wipe away every stain. That I'm not who I used to be. I am redeemed.
Okay, folks, welcome back. I hope you and your family are well, being safe. Pretty crazy times we're living in. It's our daily dollar index, and we were looking for 103, and it denied me. I was only off by 1 point, so 102.99. I think we're probably going to reach a little bit higher than that, and I'll show you reasons why in a minute. I'm going to be answering questions as I go through this presentation like I did the last two. So while I'm not drawing specific attention to this person who asked or what I'm specifically answering, those individuals that have made an inquiry weeks ago, unfortunately, because I'm really behind in my email, I will be answering and covering those. Okay, so one of the things that I want to bring your attention to is, while I'm actively using TradingView now, invariably you're going to want to go to barchart.com and see what it offers for charting. And the question I'm getting is, how can I get information further back? Because you probably already noticed when you look at tradingview.com and you pull up like GBP USD and you try to get data as far as you can on the Forex, it's only going so far. So what I do is I go into barchart.com. Well, one way I do it, let's say it that way, and one way I've taught for you all to do it in means of having access to it for free, because it doesn't cost anything to get it from barchart.com. Now you can obviously pay for data, but you can still find it for free on the internet. So this is going all the way back to 1985. Okay, 1985, and the symbol I'm showing here is the Japanese yen, my kryptonite. Well, I hate this currency, really. I just can't stand it, but nonetheless, the symbol, when you pull up the futures contract, if you want to pull up the individual futures, I'll show you the symbols over here. But what I want to look at is the cash price. And you can see a very long distance view back using that chart. Now, how do you get that price? Click on the date, and this is what I put in, January 1st of 1985, and click it on today's date, or whatever the date is that you're using at the time when you want to apply it. Then click apply, and the chart will load up. Now, once it's loaded up, okay, I simply just go up here and change the symbol J to, if I want to see British pound, then I'm just going to put a B there. So it's B6, and hit enter, and my browser will automatically update it to the British pound cash price using the same default time. And you can see, and you can also see where the British pound's reaching for. Okay, we have a fair value gap, bullish order block. So I'm jumping ahead of myself, but it is what it is. We have 1.1296 or thereabouts in terms of, well, what is that? 112.90. Yeah, there's the price of the candle right there. If you look at it right there. Okay, so when I put it on the candle, you'll see the high right there, 112.90. So that's what I think the British pound's going to reach down into. That would completely close in the fair value gap and hit the bullish order block. Now, does it make it bounce there? It could, but I think ultimately it's probably going to reach below the low here. And it is at 1.0345. Yeah, it's a long ways down there, isn't it? Is it a straight shot to get to that level? I don't believe it will. Will it be large ranges like we saw this week? Probably. Well, it got murdered this week, the British pound did. And now they're getting pretty thick with their cases. As I indicated, we would probably see going into this week. Problem with that is we're also seeing the increased number in the U.S. So we're starting to get pretty high in the number of cases of the COVID-19. And back to this, because I don't want to go too much. I jawboned a lot about that stuff the last time. And I don't want to be too ugly. Actually, that's not what I want to do. I want to do it this way. Truth be told, I don't know if I change it down here, if I lose the settings, and so that's why I'm doing it up here. Okay. I probably should have done that before, but the only thing I'm doing is I'm changing the B in this symbol. Okay, you don't see it in my browser because my browser, so in the symbol, okay, in the website address, I'm just toggling my mouse there, backspace, and then I'm putting in E, and that'll be the euro. Okay, so the euro will populate the chart with its price back to 1985 and maximize the chart again. And you can see that everything is still showing the time parameters, January 1st, 1985, and then where we are here. You can really see the equal lows that we're probably going to be reaching for near term for euro, and the low comes in at 1.0340. So we're going to be looking for a run there. So a little bit more than 350 pips more lower on euro. And should things get really excited and overshoot, we can go to fill in this fair value gap right there at 1.0171. Then we have a liquidity pool and two fair value gaps in here. And ultimately, visually, and I'm only saying this because it's in the chart, but visually, if things get really nuts, okay, say it just, this pandemic really blows up and turns into Spanish flu 2.0. God forbid, but let's say that it does, okay, and it really just goes off the charts in terms of infecting a lot of people. A lot of people are falling to it. Right in here, that's where they're going to want to take the euro. And yeah, that's a lot of ways down. Like that's a lot. Okay, so we're looking at long-term horizons, but we're looking at events that could lead to black swan events. Okay, so this would take this down here. If euro just completely collapses, this is where it's going to go, and that would be right there. Low is 82.30. So yeah, it's pretty grim. But I'm not saying it's going to go there straight shot, but as long as we have this doom and gloom plague being dealt with, and the whole globe's dealing with it, or eventually will be, this is where it could potentially go. Okay, so near term, we just have this, the 103s. Again, if you wanted to show like Australian dollar, you just change the E to an A, and everything on the chart will populate to the Australian dollar. Okay, and then scrub that down, and you can see. So we're probably going to want to get back into this area here. We have a small little fair value gap right there, and that's 51.90 on Aussie. And then if it's really trying to break down the original consolidation, return to the consolidation, accumulation, smart money reversal, low risk buy, low risk sell rather, distribution, redistribution, another area redistribution, and we're aiming for the original consolidation down here. So it looks like it's going to go down to like 0.50 or a little bit lower than that. Unfortunately, those in Auslan. If you're concerned about your payments, I've had several people from Australia email me, and they want to ask, and it's mostly the newer folks that have been doing it. Their concern is, can they pay ahead of time? Now, when I say yes, understand what I'm saying. You're not paying for multiple months ahead. I understand what you're trying to do, but I still have an obligation on my end to be held to the terms of use just the same as I'm holding you to it. You are not held to waiting to the 27th of each month to make a payment. You can make your payment earlier, but the payment will sit idle until the 27th. Then we start a new billing cycle, and then whatever payments are in the queue, we process those payments in the order that we receive them. And then eventually we get caught up, and then we start processing them as they come in real time. But we stop processing payments on the 9th. Okay, so when I shut my computers and everything down and everybody goes home, those payments that come in after that on the 10th, they stay idle until the 27th. So when you're emailing me, I paid and I'm not getting access, because it's not the 27th. You have to wait till the 27th, then we start a new billing cycle. Okay, but my point was this: those individuals that are living in Australia are getting pretty creamed in terms of their valuation from what they got to pay for to get the mentorship. You can pay your payments earlier than the 27th. It just won't be processed till the 27th. Okay. But no, I don't let anyone pay the whole mentorship off, and no, paying multiple payments will just have the extra payments refunded. Okay. I'm sorry, but it is an obligation on my part, because I have an agreement with PayPal and I have maintained a good relationship with them. So without causing any static or losing my my credibility with them in terms of sticking with the terms, this is what we have to do. So again, I am feeling for you, but these are the terms. Okay. So anyway, you obviously can see what we're doing here. Now, if we want to look at the individual commodity, you click on the select commodity, scrub down to, let's say, Canadian dollar. Okay, you click on Canadian dollar, and it'll give you a menu. And those of you that have been here for a while, you're already familiar with this. To get the cash price chart, like I've been showing, you click on this one. Okay, so whenever it says the Y00, it's always referring to the cash price. This looks like the nearby contract, but we don't usually trade that at all. We look at the June contract, okay, because it's always the same delivery months: March, June, September, December. March, June, September, December. And that's why June has the highest open interest and volume. All right. So the symbol for June is M. The symbol for September is U. The September contract code is D for Canadian dollar, 6, and then U for the month code of September, and then 20 is the year. All right. Obviously, when we look at the trading view, the symbol is different. They use the full year, 2020. Or at least that's what I've been showing when I show you the delivery contract for that month. But if you're going to be using bar chart for charts and you want to reach back farther to get data, and you're really focusing on using this and you're not really interested in using TradingView, because there's some of you that are like that, it will create problems like this, and I'm trying not to have to do this a lot. I've already covered this in other videos, but just because there's a lot of new folks in here, I want to just revisit it. I know some of you that have been here for a while are like, man, why can't you make a separate video? I don't have time. Okay, we're going to do it all like this, and it's in one place at one time. So when you click on June, it'll load the most active nearby contract. Once it loads up, you click on Interactive Chart. That's the one I prefer to use. Okay, and then it'll open up with probably a default setting. To change it to candlesticks, you're going to click Candlestick Open to Close. All right, and you can see that I have, again, the time and date set. So apparently it's still holding that as a universal setting. So that's good. I just answered my own question whether or not I can do that. So we have an old low here on Canadian dollar. I know I'm jumping all over the place. Deal with it. Let's see. The low is 68.09. Yeah, make sure I did that right. Yeah, 68.09. That's our next level. And then inside of this, we have an old high and fair value gap that is capped at the low here at 66.50. So Canadian dollar could see 66.50, then into the order block and fair value gap at, make sure I'm getting this on the right candle here, 64, 65, yeah, 65, what is it, 65.77, so 65.80, we could see that on Canadian dollar. Now, remember, we're looking at the Canadian dollar futures contract, okay? So when we look at Forex, if we're expecting the Canadian dollar on the futures contract to go lower, that means the dollar CAD pair is actually going higher. Okay, so just remember that. And again, if you want to change the commodity currency, you just change it to whatever. Let's say we want to look at Swiss franc. Click on the Swiss franc. June is the nearby contract. Click on that. Same interactive chart. And here's the Swiss franc going all the way back to 1985. Look at all this consolidation. So we have equal lows in here. That would be the near-term target. So that's 90. What is it? Yeah, looks like this is the lowest. The low is 96.86. So again, same thing with this currency. If we're looking at this as potentially going lower, and the futures contract is the Swiss franc, dollar Swiss would be going higher. Okay, so trading back into here, into the bullish order block, that would take us into around 93. Okay, so if things get really extrapolated and dollar just explodes on the upside, we could see 93 as a potential long term on Swiss franc or dollar Swiss moving higher up in relative terms. And I would have to give you levels at another time for that. But I got questions on how to work with bar chart instead of TradingView, and hopefully this has answered the questions for that. All right, so let's go over to the dollar index and continue our discussion. So we just made it 1 point away from the 103 target I outlined in the last discussion. Remember, we have that old high at the 104s, so just be mindful of that. That could potentially be where we're ultimately drawing to. That's what I personally believe. I said that we would want to see us trade back down into this high and close in that gap. We went a little bit into it, consequent quotient of the wick. So that's midpoint here. It went down to that, capitalized, and drew off of that. And I want to see if we open above where we closed. Okay, so I want to see it open above where we closed, come back down, fill in any kind of gap, and then resume going higher. That's what I would like to see. If it opens gaps higher and just keeps on going higher, that's even better. But if we gap lower and fill in, then I'm concerned about maybe wanting to go back down into the full dollar mark. That to me is not as bullish as I would like it to be, but it still could be, a return back to the breaker, and then we could see it go higher. Moving on into the hourly chart. All right, so you can see it just fell short of it. It looks like it hits it, but it doesn't. See, it's 102.99, 102.99. Okay, so both of those candles just fell short by 1 point. And yes, it drives my OCD crazy. So here we have the fair value gap, as I mentioned before. We have really nice return into the fair value gap there. Filled in one more here. Rallied. Immediate rebalance here. And then we have bullish order block here. Equal lows. Old fair value gap, bullish order block, extended out in time. Boom. Equal highs. And again, we're looking for a willingness to go higher on this dollar index, and that will still provide the means for bearishness on foreign currency. You can see they're already leaving equal highs in place, so the protocol there, it could come back down, rebalance to this price point here, and it would take out all of these equal lows. If we gap down, I'd like to see it be about a rather shallow lower gap opening. If it goes to this area here and then runs back to fill the gap, we want to wait to see if it gets on the other side of the gap. And again, this is a lot of assuming, okay? So I'm trying to forecast something that hasn't happened yet. It's not the same as looking at a chart that's live, going from like a Monday's opening and it's trading for the rest of the week. That's an easier read, whereas I don't know where we're going to open on Sunday. Like that is an absolute unknown for me. I have no tools whatsoever, have no technique, no concept, no idea, no crystal ball, and have none of those things that can, tell me where we're going to open on Sunday. So I'm at the mercy of what the market does. So I don't have those tools. So if you had an itch to ask me that question, I just answered another one there, because I got that from a lot of the new folks. Sunday is a complete toss-up. I have no idea. Okay, once the price starts trading, then I got a pretty good idea where it's going to go, as you have seen. But it needs to open, and where it goes from there, we'll decide then. But if it opens lower, fills in this area down here, say it opens here. I don't know where it's going to, but say it opens here. It trades down, fills in this area, and puts it back to the bullish order block in here, which is also a propulsion candle, because we have the order block here, returned back to it here, and didn't go deep into here. We don't want to see it go halfway or less than halfway of this candle here. That would be a confirmed propulsion candle. It will also fill in the fair value gap. Then if it trades back above where it opens, and I said I used this price here at 101.71, let's say it opens there. If it opens there, it's completely coincidence. I have no tools to tell me that. I'm just using it as a rough estimate and to illustrate an example. But if it opens here, that would leave a gap from here to where we closed on Friday. So that's the gap. So if it trades down, fills in this BISI, buy side and balance, sell side inefficiency, and trades off of the propulsion candle, runs back above the gap. What's the gap? The closing price on Friday. So in other words, it's got to go back above Friday's close and then find some kind of a bullish discount array and then move higher. Otherwise, I'll have to wait until it does something else up here to get in sync. But I'm not trying, and I don't need to pick or know exactly how it's going to do it. But once it does, my experience will be leaned on by me to trust what I see, because there's nothing happening yet. The market hasn't opened up for the week. I don't know what scenarios may be there, but I have ways to work with it. I just have to see what it does when it opens. But primarily, I'd like to see it be a rather shallow gap lower, if it gaps at all lower, and just clean up this area here, and then rally back above Friday's close, and then start to work higher. And then I'll feel comfortable with it moving into the 104s. All right. Let's go back to the daily and roll into Euro. Isn't that awesome? Look at that. All right, so Euro USD. All right, so here's euro. Completely random. All right, so I'm going to remove these lines in here because they're just starting to annoy me. But obviously, when we get into the hourly chart, you'll see again what we saw here. So you can kind of, again, appreciate that. And this area here, we're done with that as well. But we almost got back to the old fair value gap in here, coming back all the way back up almost to the top of that, and then rejected it. So we stabbed below this, said we would go into the 106s, and we got as low as 106.37 and 7 pipettes. Not bad. I still think we're going to get down at and below the 106. We're going to go into 105s next. Just for completeness sake, I'm going to scrunch this up so you can see what that imbalance is we're drawing attention to, which is that right there. That's our BISI. All right, and in here is just a order block that I extended out in time, and it hit it. If we look at a weekly chart, I'll throw that up here real quick and zoom in. That's what I'm showing you here. Okay, it's this down close candle's opening price. Opening price is 1.0651 and 8 pipettes, and that's what it hit right there. Now what's left? There's no more fair value gaps in the weekly chart. We have relative equal lows. So that blue line here at 103.40. Remember what I showed you on the bar chart chart for euro long term in the 103s? Well, this is what it looks like for the old low on the Forex pair, euro versus dollar. So that's what I'm looking for it to go down to. Okay, so about 350 pips or so more on the downside. All right, drop down into an hourly chart, and you can see really nice price action using our daily levels. Okay, didn't quite get up, again, as I mentioned in the previous video, didn't get back to the old support broken term resistance. See that? It didn't happen. But it does give us our institutional order flow entry drill right there. And all it has to do is trade back to this candle's high, and it does, and a little bit more, and then it sells off and creates all the other opportunities to go short. Fair value gap, bearish order block, boom. Fair value gap, bearish order block, boom. Okay, so in this area here, we rebalance, but what does it do? It comes right back up into fair value. Okay, this level and this level here, these two levels here, is our old BISI, as I showed on the daily chart. When I scrunched up and showed you where I was showing you the old fair value gap where it just had one single candle on the daily chart, that's what it's going back up into. It picked up more orders there, and mitigation, extend that out in time, bang. Mitigation by itself is just one piece. If you can find a mitigation or a breaker inside, okay, inside of a fair value gap, then it's much more meaningful. And you see that actually happening here. Relative equal lows, we swept that. So I think it's going to be a heavy, just drift lower as we approach that 1.06, and then it might accelerate as we go into the 105s. And you can see all the respective levels, as I mentioned, on the hourly chart with the daily fair value gaps outlined that I'm going to remove to keep our daily charts clean. All right, so here is consequent encroachment. Consequent encroachment again. Complete return back to the top of the fair value gap. And I'm going to call this consequent encroachment. It didn't get to the top. Okay, so while it just went above a little bit, to me, it's all it needed to do is get back to the middle of the low and the high of that daily BISI. Okay, so it trades back to that level, relative equal lows are the target, and then drops lower. The continuation on the upside on the dollar is what we're focusing on, so that means we're going to be looking for continuation on the downside on euro dollar. And let's put this back on the daily, and we're going to roll into cable. All right, so we have British pound looking like it's cliff diving. All right, so here, let's move this up a little bit because I like to have my charts elongate like that. So we had this old area here. It's already fulfilled its role, and it's actually left the same. So this has become a balanced price range. What makes it a balanced price range, Michael? We had one single pass through here, and we had one single pass through here. With this one single candle, this range, okay, let me grab a hold of this and extend it out in time, okay, and we'll get rid of the exclamation. It's not necessary anymore. So in between these two lines, what I see, what my eye is drawn to, is the fact that we have just one single candle pass up. Now by that alone, it creates an imbalance. This is a BISI. Specifically, the category of PDRA is it's a fair value gap. But what specifically is it? It's a buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency. So the market didn't spend enough time in between this candle's high and this candle's low when it passed this one time with this candle. So my eye is drawn to these candles. Every time I look at the chart, that's the first thing I look for. It used to, everyone think, oh, all he does is look at supply and demand, which he renamed as an order block, which these people are stupid because they have no idea what they're talking about. But nonetheless, this area here becomes a buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency in the form of a fair value gap. So price will want to come back down to this candle's high, okay? It almost makes it here. It stops at consequent encroachment. The very next candle, it opens, trades up a little bit, and then passes through the original two lines in one candle. The next candle, it opens down here, trades up, and it does not come back to the lower line, and it does not come back all the way up to this level here on the previous low where it traded the consequent encroachment. So I have two candles, this candle here and this candle here, where they both in one pass individually, one candle, one that goes up, buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency. It's been rebalanced and overcome with this move here. This becomes a balanced price range. Price will have a very hard time getting through that. If this candle would have came up, it would have stopped dead most likely in its tracks right there and left this candle untouched, that low. That's what a balanced price range is, where candles go up and down through a specific price range on one single pass. Okay? What that indicates and what makes it a balanced price range is the fact that it trades through it one time here and one time here. The algorithm is not going to need to go back to that because it's already offered it there, and it's kind of like tipping its hand that it wants to go extremely lower. And when you see attempts where it gets close to it but doesn't even do that, that is very indicative of a bearish move coming. And there it is. Relative equal lows. Originally I had our idea here, and we could probably have seen a bounce. It was too heavy. It just did not bounce at all. Couldn't even get back to an old array and just explode on the downside. Nice SIBI, sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. Price comes up, consequent encroachment between the high here and the low here. So midpoint of that, it trades back to that and then recedes off of that. Again, if we get the continuation on the upside with the dollar index, we're looking for lower prices on cable, and it's still several hundred points lower. All right, here is the hourly chart. Exceedingly bearish. Just no real attempts to rally. Every attempt to move a little bit higher, it's always a lower high, a lower high. No stops have been really taken anywhere until we get this pass here. We have this high after cleaning up equal highs and imbalance, trades into that, makes a lower low. So we have two areas here: clean highs, clean lows. They run the clean highs, run the clean lows. Liquidity is now pulling here. Anyone that's short, they felt confident that this pass here was the retracement, and then now we broke lower. So what are they thinking? Support broken is now resistance, and they come back all the way up and clear their buy stops. So now I like this in here, and I really like the fact that we made a higher high here, even though we went above this one. So you have high, higher high, and then one more time, and then they give up the ghost. We returned back on Friday at the close right into this area here. So I'd like to see a gap lower on cable, come back, fill the gap, and then explode to the downside. That's what I'd like to see, and we'll see if we get that at all. 15-minute time frame on cable. If we don't gap down, we can come back up to the bearish order block here, fill in that little bit of a fair value gap there, and then look for a pass lower, attacking the liquidity here, and then moving into the 113s. All right, let's go back to the daily chart and pull up SPOOs. Yes, June 2020. Boom. All right, so here is our chart for S&P E-mini futures delivery contract June 2020. Remember I was telling you it's going to be bearish on stocks up here? Really got creamed, hasn't it? So I've been talking to several pretty well-known Twitter people. I'm not going to call them out here. They know who they are. No, they're not. At least I don't know if he is or not, but I don't think he is. If he is, he's done so under an alias, but I'm not speculating to that degree. But we were talking in private, and he felt that I was being, I guess, too opinionated about the stock market, and that it's already priced in its low. And he said that on this candle here, and then I said it wasn't going to make a low, and he came back with delete all your tweets. And I said, well, we'll see. And it made a lower low, and I said it's still not done. And when this candle here came, another well-known Twitter person said the stock market's made its low. You're wrong. I said, I'm not trying to compete with anyone. I'm just telling you there's no reason for anyone to buy stocks. Absolutely zero. None whatsoever. Even if some good news comes out, the impact that this has had is going to show in quarter 2 and quarter 3. And it's not going to be good. So everybody's just looking for the silver lining, and I understand, and I get it. Okay, and I hate to be the guy on Twitter to be doom and gloom, sound like I've married the vein. I'm only seeing the downside. I'm a perma bear. I'm just telling you, we're not halfway there. We're not even halfway there. Okay, that's how bad this can be. So 1750 is where I think SPOOs are going to go near term. How we accelerate and what this virus does and how many lives it takes will dictate how fast we go below 1,000. 1,000 on the S&P. Below it. So you understand. We made a lower low on Friday. Gave up all this. Oh, it's good news. It's the malaria drug. It's this, it's that. There's no confidence. None whatsoever. Okay? None. This market has no reason to be bought. Warren Buffett coming out. Yep, it's time to buy stocks. Buy the dip. Not this one, Warren. Not this one, buddy. So here's the hourly chart. Really, really, really difficult type of trading environment. Lots of limit down and limit up days. And all of this is where it's lock limit. The market's going back and forth, gyrating. And then we came back up clean, equal highs. Notice that we're not creating some turn with bullish structure. It doesn't do that. Okay? Limit down and then careens lower. Runs to sell stops. All this limit move, they've not one time been able to get back above that. This high here, okay? Yes, we have equal highs. I was expecting this to push above and get above that and then create this run lower. It only needed to get above here, clear up that, and then we broke lower. So I expect and would bet on a very, very, very weak opening, like a really crazy gap lower on S&P. I think we're at that stage now where people are seeing the numbers in the U.S. People are really, becoming more of a believer that this is really something to be concerned about. Fewer denialists are out there, that used to be denying that it's really anything there. It's just a flu. It's just a flu. New Jersey, recently, in the last couple hours, have put out their notice that no one's supposed to leave their home. So I'm expecting Delaware in Maryland. Probably be on Monday. I have some friends in the military that indicated that Monday we're going to be locked down for 3 weeks in Maryland. So, fun times ahead. That is just going to be exasperating the whole thing, revving up the whole fear mechanism. And every time the dealers offer a lower price, that price will print because people will be just dying to get out of it. And it's just going to feed itself. Okay, so just know we have not seen capitulation yet. Capitulation in the stock market is where it's just 100% bloodbath. Here's what's coming, okay? I already told you you're going to start seeing limit moves. We've had those. We had several days of those, up and down, and we're still seeing it go lower. We're going to see a day where they stop trading for the day, and we'll probably see a couple days like that, where it's just they just hit all the circuit breakers and they have to stop for the day, and that's their mechanism for containing it. So what they're trying to do, or slow it, put speed bumps on it. So it goes 3%, 7%, 13%, and then 20%, and then they halt trading for that day. When they do this, when they stop trading for the entire day and it's locked down, 20%, it's going to be a shell shock. There's a lot of people out there that are cheerleading this market higher. They want it to go higher because it's just, they want to be able to see it turn around. And there's other people that are talking it, saying, hey, look, buy. This is a time to buy. And my opinion is this. These funds, these large hedge fund managers that get on there and say, oh, this is not the end of the financial institutions. This is not the end of this. And listen, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that this market is toast. And to me, if everything blows over, say this isn't the end, okay? Say it's just a really, really bad time that we have to all endure, and things eventually come to the other side and the virus has, done whatever it's going to do. When normalcy, if it ever returns, comes back to the marketplace, it'll be a wonderful long-term buying opportunity then, but not right now. I have said for years that the stock market was at levels that were unrealistic. They're just completely overvalued, and nobody should have been buying stocks. I told you all last fall, start reducing your exposure to stocks. I said it. It's in my videos. Go back and listen to them. They're there. It's there. That's why if I make a mistake in the video, I leave it there, because no one's going to be able to say I go back and I doctor these videos to make it sound good. Okay? It's. I promise that this is when people sign up, the same thing that they heard when they were here, months before they joined, the same people, like everyone's listening to my voice now, people that joined later in the year or next year or whatever, they'll hear this same recording unedited the same way it was when you heard it the first time it was uploaded to the video server. Nothing changes. I believe that when they see the market go lock limit on 20% and they halt trading for the day, that is going to freak people out. And that's going to be the trigger where then capitulation starts. Not happens and finishes. It starts then. Because people will realize that I can't do any trading right now, and I'm stuck and the market's already down and I can't get out, and not going to reopen the market. And that type of thing is very scary. And I lived that. I was in the S&P market during 9/11, and I was stuck in a position long. And you know what happened there? They kept the market closed and they opened it up. It was bad. It was really bad. And I was so anxious. I was having so many panic attacks that day. Well, that week, really, I just couldn't stand it because I could not get out of the trade. I couldn't do it. That's what I said on Twitter. You're going to see the ugly side of this industry. And you're seeing it slowly being rolled out. And now, when we go into this week and in the first half of the following week, it has real potential to be extremely bad. And I think, unfortunately, if that happens, we're probably going to see people ending themselves, because it's just going to feel like the end of the world to them. They're going to lose everything they got financially. And I had a conversation with my uncle, the one I lived with when I was learning how to do all this stuff. And he thinks, all this QAnon stuff, he thinks that right now all this stuff is a cover for people getting rounded up in the deep state. And they're doing all kinds of arrests and things right now. And I don't subscribe to that. I don't know why he thinks that stuff, but he believes it. And he thinks that, the market's going to bounce back. And I don't see that. I don't know. I can't get my mind to align with that. I don't know where he's getting it from. So we had a really pretty heated discussion right before I sat down to do this video. And I told him, I said, look, everyone has an opinion, and I'm not trying to convince anyone. Like, I'm not trying to convince all of you. You pay for my opinion. I'm giving you my opinion. And my opinion is we're on track to do exceedingly worse than you saw so far. And if you have risk, you need to take yourself out of it right now. If you have the opportunity to take yourself out of risk, remove it. I cannot stress it. I told you last fall, remove yourself. And if you have 401ks, I honestly would just take the penalty and just move it into cash, because you're going to watch years and decades of price movement get erased in just a week or so of trading sessions. It may not happen this week coming. It may be the following week that it does this. But that's how I read this. I'm reading the price action. It's telling me that. Because there's still this sugar high that these people are still talking. And there's so many people out there believe that stuff. They get on there and they say, oh yeah, it's a time to buy. Don't lose hope, America. This isn't the end of the financial industry. We're strong financially. This, that. Look, that might be true, but we're on life support. Okay, so is it strong if you're on life support? We're on the cusp of flatlining. Okay, I mean, businesses cannot sustain themselves when they are shut down for a long period of time. When they put presidents in office, the idea is, what team won, the Democrats or the Republicans? And it's just like, to me, I think that the NFL is rigged. Okay, I think it's like boxing. I think it's rigged. Okay, years and years ago, it used to be, yeah, your talent would win. But gambling, the money changers entered the fray. So it becomes, what are everyone betting on most? And the most likely bet, they make more by putting it on the underdog. And it may not be the clear underdog, but the one that is, in terms of the underdog, in terms of the odds. And yes, the odds favorite most of the time wins. But when the odds are just so sweet, I'm convinced that there's backroom deals and boxers take a dive. And NFL has so many referees on the field. To me, it never made any sense. It's like, to me, these games are just rigged because there's so many bets that could be more profitable than just watching some guys throw around some dead pigskin. It doesn't make any sense to me. To me, I understand the business of trading. I understand how the manipulation takes place, but I can't always read the bet side on sports. But there's been a few times I got lucky and said, look, everybody thinks this is what's going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's going to be this. And friends of mine that are in business that do heavily sports betting, they hated me because on the few instances I was right, I would rub it in. But I hate sports. I hate them. So I believe that this same element of rigging is really being ratcheted up right now, because large funds are exposed still, and they can't just sell everything they have because they won't get the pricing they want, and they won't be able to get the other side of the trades that they want. So there has to be some sucker or a big wave of suckers that come in, and they always march to that same beat of, we haven't really weakened. We haven't weakened as a nation. All of our companies are strong. But look, if you look at the stocks as a whole, even before coronavirus in December, most stocks were not making new highs. They were being distributed. They were being sold off. This sell-off was too much and too fast for most funds to liquidate. So they're holding still large numbers of shares, and they want to create a stream of buyers to have some kind of everyone's hoping, and I'm getting emails from people all the time, people from brokers and everything else. Do you think we'll get a bounce, even if it's a short squeeze? No, I don't. I absolutely don't. I think this is going to go into a precipitous drop, and it's going to look like a lightning falling. Okay, that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. That's the next wave of selling. It's not going to look like where it's a correction and it bounces in some kind of retracement. Look at your chart. I mean, seriously, look at this. Does this look like a market that wants to give anybody an opportunity? This was it. That was it. And then, and I think we're going to accelerate below 2,000, 1750. And then if it really, really ramps up, we're going under 1,000. It seems impossible. It sounds far-fetched. But you need to weigh this stuff out, folks. Look at the reality. We have a globe of countries, countries all around the world, and they're bringing their entire economies to a halt. The government can't bail out every small business in America. There's going to be so many bankruptcies and so many things that's going to happen later on when they can deal with it all. But they're not going to be able to weather this. And we're going to have the largest number of unemployment we've ever had. Our population is way more than it was back in 1929. And no one is going to be able to deal with that. And we're going to have crime. We're going to have recession. It's going to be bad. Like, we are really in for some mess. And unless you understand how you can earn an income outside of having a 9-to-5 job, you're really screwed, because that's how bad this is going to get. And thankfully, we're not stuck with just trading stocks. We're not stuck with just trading Forex. There's the commodity market, and they have a relatively low margin amount. You can trade options in that market as well, and you can still capture big moves, but you don't trade every single day. There'll be adjustments that's necessary, and some of you won't be able to make that adjustment. Some of you will be forced to make that adjustment. But we're in for a pretty significant move lower still. Nothing here is bullish. Not one thing here is bullish. It's real risk. And I've had emails from people saying, I'm so thankful that you told us to prepare, and they feel a lot more at ease. They put more food in their home, got some staples together for living their normal life, and it allows them to rest and not be so anxious right now. But if you have risk with your investments, now is the time. If you haven't already, get into cash. Don't have anything in equities, because this is potentially going to be so fast and such a, this can gap, okay? This can gap down 1,000 points. Who says it can't? None of you can say that. You don't know where they're going to open this. It's frightening to think where they're going to take this market. And honestly, nothing makes more sense than below 1,000 to me, because it'll kill everything in the marketplace. No one will hold anything at that time. It'll flood the market with shares, and that's when the markets will bottom. When just nobody has any faith in it anymore. And then, and only then, will smart money go in there and buy it all up real cheap. Because at that time, they're going to be looking at the biggest down candle after probably a series of gaps down. And nobody will want to touch it. And that's when they move in. Because they'll buy it at a deep discount when it's maximum fear. Right now, it's not maximum fear. It's not maximum fear. Here's when you're going to know it's maximum fear. And this is why I watch CNBC. It's the only reason why I watch it. When they have given up on life and you can read their face and they're just absolutely disgusted, you think they're going to throw up on the scene. Like when they're talking, you think that they're just going to turn their head and just let it roll right out of their mouth. And that's probably graphic and disgusting, but that's the look they had. Okay, in 2008, 2009 crisis, when it made the low, everybody on TV looked like they lost a loved one. Nobody had an optimistic story. No one came in and say, let's buy the dip. Nobody had any good news. None. Everything was doom, gloom, end of the world. This market is history. We're not going to have a job. That's the storyline. I mean, you literally had anchors saying, are we going to have a job? That's when the market makes a bottom. Right now, it's still bubbly when they get a high. Oh, we're up limit. Yeah, you're up limit after it's down 10,000 points. Listen, okay? This is not over. Do not try to be a hero. Don't try to be smart. Don't try to arm wrestle me. Oh, I was right, and ICT was saying this was going to happen. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Not because I want you to be smarter than me. I want you to be protected. And this looks like it's going down. Like the elevator is going down and the cable's broke. There's no support underneath us. Nothing. And when I said that in that recording, this is going to be the biggest market crash in history. And it's going to be so fast. It's going to be relentless. It's going to be, epic. It's going to be historic. It's going to be savage. We're right at that moment right now. That's where we're at. This is where everyone that had half a brain, they all started getting out in here. And now all of this narrative, everybody that trades on Twitter was talking about how we're probably making the low. We're probably making the low. And every time they do that, I get more bearish. Talking heads on TV. Oh, it could be the low. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Everybody's, what do you think? I think they're nuts. It's almost, they should be held liable. It's that bad. I mean, they're literally trying to sweet talk the public into going in and buying stocks. Come on, man. That's not responsible. Look at what we have. We have every world nation basically imploding their own economies. Now, granted, it's necessary. They got to keep people safe. They got to take extraordinary steps. But even admitting that and coming to grips with that doesn't change the underlying tone of this is it. Like, they are really absolutely crushing their economy. And you can't have a V bottom, okay? You can't have a sharp turnaround, rally higher on the other side of something like this. Because businesses are at a standstill. The restaurant industry in Maryland, I'm privy to being friends with people in large bakeries. And one of the largest bakeries in Maryland, and actually the East Coast and Midwest states, they own a lot of bakeries and produce pretty much, if you live in the Midwest states or on the East Coast, you're eating something of their bakeries. Okay, they have bakeries in multiple states. I have inside knowledge, basically, because of their sales. They have a division that's divided over the grocery store side of the business, where you go to the grocery store and you buy your groceries, and you buy all your breads and rolls. And they also have a restaurant industry side where they deliver bread to all the local industries like Ruth Chris, the McDonald's, everything from McDonald's on the East Coast and Midwest, you're eating their roll. They make the muffins, the Egg McMuffins, the Thomas Muffins. They make bagels. They make every element of bread you can think of. The only people that I know that don't use their product is like Subway, because they make their own breads. I think there's one other company out there that makes bread, but they don't buy anything from this company's umbrella of companies. But the reason why I say all this stuff is they are getting murdered right now. They are panicking because 80% of their business is actually restaurant business, because that's where they make the most money. They don't make a lot of money off of the bread sold at grocery stores. A lot of people think, they probably have a very large profit margin too. They don't. They have a very low profit margin. So what's the first thing that goes in the store when there's an event like bad weather or some bad news is coming? Okay, what is it? Milk, eggs, and bread, and toilet paper. Okay, so this industry is suffering too, because now they have companies contacting them saying, look, if this doesn't blow over in a week, we're done. If this doesn't blow over by the end of this month, we're done. Now, if 80% of their profits, okay, not revenue, their profits, their total high-end yield of revenue that comes in for their sales is coming from the restaurant industry, not the grocery side, then what does that mean? That means they're in trouble. So it's a domino effect. These large producing companies that the government and the president said, we have to keep these businesses open. Okay, well, here's the other thing. The bakery's reporting people not coming to work. They're saying, I value my life more than this job. And the way it looks right now, nobody's going to have a job anymore. So it is what it is. I'm going to hopefully stay alive and stay healthy by not going into a cramped, closed up space that has no ventilation, no windows, because you can't have bugs and birds flying in. Otherwise, they'll land on the bread that rolls above your head that cools down before it can go to the slicer and it gets put in its bag. So it's a very grim picture that's in front of us. And industries that are still running, they're not running in a capacity where they're profiting. How many people are really going out and getting curbside food that are allowed to leave? Like in New Jersey, you're not allowed to leave. In California, you can't leave. In some places in New York, you can't leave unless they change. I haven't updated my notes on New York. But nobody's going to be sustaining the revenue stream and support structure of these companies that are running on a broken leg without a crutch. It's unsustainable. And then here's the thing. I'm hearing that we're going to be down for 3 weeks in Maryland. Other countries have done something similar to that too. I don't believe that the school system is going to allow students to come back to school the rest of this school year. And at best, it'll be a late start. We won't be starting at our normal time in September. So I think that this is just like they do when they have presidents in office, as I was mentioning earlier. You thought I forgot that. This is all part of this. When they get a president elected, the team, whoever's president, Democrat or Republican, that team feels good. And the other team has to wait 4 years. And then maybe they'll get their chance. And it's back and forth, Democrat, Republican. And it doesn't matter because the underlying things stay the same. Now, they might look different on the surface, but unless you know where you're being led to, you won't see the changes that's actually occurring. See, this is all being funneled into a world government, okay? And you don't see the incremental moves that's happening small over long periods of time because it has to be done that way. Otherwise, people will recognize it and say, I'm not having a part of this. And there'll be a revolt. what we're going to see in this whole event is they're going to ratchet it up and do it in your face. All these changes like they did with 9/11. They're not going to waste this crisis. And certain freedoms and certain liberties that we are accustomed to in the United States, which ones, I don't know. But I'm paying attention every single day to see which ones they're trying to remove right now. Because they will be the same ones they don't allow to come back into place like we did in September 11th. See, a lot of you younger folks don't know what it was like the day of September 10th, 2001. Some of you weren't even alive. So there's people in this industry that are really, really young. They have no concept of what's going on, and they don't know what we've lost prior to September 11th. And we are going to lose more in all of this. There's no reason to be bullish on the stock market right now. Absolutely none. Zero. There's nothing technically there. There's nothing fundamentally there. And you still have this big dark cloud with an end date that's unknown. And you don't know when it's going to slow down. Like, you don't know. No one knows that. That's the problem with bioweapons. Like, how do you completely purge the area and society of it? You don't know where it's at. And it's alarming. And a lot of that is going, well, it's being ignored. You know, you see these pictures, these guys walking around with these garden sprayers, and they're spraying whatever they're spraying on the ground and on the surface of everything. Great. But what about the people that have it and don't know it, or the ones that have it and know it, and they are willfully going around and spitting, you know, their saliva on everything, and it's just disgusting. There's videos of young men they claim to be from Baltimore. They're down in Florida, and they're doing those types of things. They should be arrested. I mean, that's, whether they have it or not, they should be arrested. Because what that's doing is it's creating more fear, anxiety, and it's uncalled for. They don't know if they have it or not. They could think they don't. And that's what's bad about all this. And I hate to sound like Chicken Little. You know, I hate to sound like the guy that's never got a good news. But I'm realist. Okay? You know, I warned about this stuff ahead of time because I am always on alert for this. I'm always looking for this type of thing. And everything that I see, every indication that I'm receiving through people's opinions, the charts, the obvious, you know, elephant in the room, which is this virus that's just starting. It's just starting. We have millions, hundreds of millions of people in America, okay? You're only hearing about a few states in the news. Like, that's the only places that this stuff is, you know, happening. These are the only states that's reporting right now. Next week, you're going to see this stuff bloom. The countdown I was giving you, when it was going from, you know, 9 days, 8 days, 7 days, you know, whatever, was last Wednesday. And then Wednesday, look at where we are now. Our cases are exploding. And all I did was looked at the date and compared it to where we were in China and in South Korea and Japan and Italy. And we're seeing it. And now UK, they're blowing up. But I think America's going to have a really, really bad case of it. Because number one, we didn't do anything for over a month and a half. Just, oh, well, you know, it's going to be fine, whatever. It's going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be fabulous. They should have shut everything down. And I could sit here and armchair quarterback everything like other people do, and it doesn't do any good. What we have is what we have now. And the number of people that we have that are probably going to be infected with this stuff is going to be outrageous. And we don't have enough hospital beds, let alone ventilators. And if you've been paying attention, there's a lot of young folk now in the hospitals and ICU units. Now, a lot of young folk aren't dying, but who wants to raise their hand to be put on a ventilator? I've never been put on one, and I pray to God that I never have to be put on one. But every testimony I ever heard is it's not pleasant, especially when they pull it out of you. So, yeah, I don't want to go through that, and I would never want anyone to have to endure that. And we're going to, unfortunately, hear a lot of that happening, and we're going to enter that same stage that Italy did, where their doctors have to make the uncomfortable decision of deciding who lives. Like, how do you do that? Like, how can you look at someone knowing they're suffering and then say, I think your odds of surviving are lower than that person, so you can't have treatment. I hope you get better. Like, that's the dark side where we're going into right now. How long does that last? I don't know. And that, to me, is alarming. So how does all that bode well for a stock market making a low? It doesn't. It doesn't bode well for good trading decisions in equities at all. And this is the reason why I say, if you have any risk, we have not reached the level of capitulation. We have not reached that point where everyone is panic selling. Right now, there's a lot of people saying, it's still a flu. This week, we remove that stigma. The narrative changes. You won't hear anybody referring to it as a flu now. Friday of this week coming, there's going to be a lot of despair. A lot of what is going to happen next. There's that now, but not to the degree we're probably going to see in this coming week. We're going to be shocked if they're honest about releasing the numbers, because I believe, like I mentioned before, that's the reason why we've had no tests done. We couldn't get our hands on tests. You see these other countries, and they were testing hundreds of thousands of people, and you couldn't get your hands on a test here because it's easy to sweep under the rug of the flu. There's a administration that does not want to lose its footing because it's already lost it with the stock market. Look at the stock market. Look at the stock market. Every day it's up, 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 up. We're making America great. And I'm not knocking just Trump. I'm just knocking the stupidness that people fall into because of that. The stock market has nothing to do with policies. I'm more concerned about that than the stock market. And if that was his only selling point, he has a real hard problem come November. And truth be told, I've already said this, I don't think we're going to have an election. I don't think it's going to happen. Because we went from, it's going to be gone in a couple weeks. Is this going to magically disappear? Now it's, we got to get ready, have 3 months of provisions. And then now we're slowly but surely talking about 18 months. Come on. Who can be held up in their house for 18 months? Like, I'm an introvert, but I still got to get out. I got to get out of the house, man. I got to stretch my legs. I got to move around. And I don't like being told what to do. And I feel confined now only because I know they're saying limit your travel. And when they say you can't go out of your house, I'm going to really feel like going out and driving my cars. I'm going to want to do that. I'm not saying I'm going to, but I'm going to really want to do that. And I think if I'm honest and I'm telling you that, people with less character and less discipline are going to do things and not stay in their house. Now, is that going to put a lid on this virus? Probably not, because you're always going to have that outlier, that person that's going to do whatever they're wanting to do because they have no discipline. And we have a lot of that stuff in our country. Every country does, but we have a whole lot of it. And personally, I think that we're going to see a lot of Wild West stuff coming. I mentioned it last year, and I mentioned it in 2016 in the summer when we were doing live sessions. And I wish I knew what recordings I talked about. I know I could swear on a stack of Bibles and know I'm telling you the truth because I know I ranted about it. But we're entering a period of time where it's going to be like nuts. Like, you're going to see stuff that you see in movies and you're thinking that would never happen in real life. Think about what's happening right now. Every nation is either contemplating or under a lockdown. It's incredible to think about that. Like, it really is astonishing to know that there is such a pent-up revenue stream everywhere, and most aren't going to be able to survive that. Like, I don't know how to answer this. Like, I wouldn't even begin to know how to answer it. The fallout is going to come later on. We're all just worrying about how long we're going to be inconvenienced. Corporate industries are wondering if they're going to stay solvent. We're going to have all kinds of bailouts. The airline industry absolutely is going to have to get a bailout. Every facet of the travel industry is going to need a bailout. It's like every 10 years or so, we got to do some kind of a bailout. The automobile bailout, the bank industry bailout. Now it's the whole world bailout. They're talking about giving away free money. Look, when the market is crashing, that's one thing. But if all the nations around the world are coming to a complete halt, and then now the government says, we're going to send you money. To me, that just sounds like stay pacified for a little bit longer because we're about to do something that's going to make you nuts. And I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know specifically what that is. But there's a lot of chatter about id2020.org. If you've not been there, check it out. I've said this since this started. This is going to lead to one thing. It's going to be a forced mandatory vaccine because they're going to cite the fact that our health industry was hit hard by it. We're going to have nurses and doctors, used as this is the reason why you have to get it done because we can't have this ever happen again. This is like another Holocaust. Never again. That's going to be the slogan. We have to have everyone vaccinated. And the only way they can keep record of it and really know that someone is vaccinated is they're going to have this structure of keeping track of people with a mark. And they have created that mark with the purpose of keeping track of who was vaccinated. And Bill Gates and the Rockefeller family were all parts of this. And it's public knowledge. How do we go from Windows operating system to now controlling who has a vaccine and who doesn't? Pretty weird, isn't it? That's a big leap from one industry to the next. And I'm not going to say anything about the Rockefellers because you can look all them up and see what their interests are. But I'm looking at the world stage right now. And never in history has there ever been a time where all the things that were written are coming to pass right in front of our eyes. Like, we have a stage that's set for everyone's global economy is crashing. What if somebody steps out on the scene and has all the right answers? What do you think every nation would think of that person? Pretty crazy, isn't it? I'm probably going to talk a little bit about that in the forum this week. Again, it's not for everyone. I'm not trying to convert. I'm not trying to preach. I'm not trying to challenge someone. I'm not trying to debate your religion against my faith in God. It's none of that. Okay. But I feel like I want to do it. So again, if it's not something you're interested in and you don't want to go that direction while you're here, I understand it and it's not being forced. But I am answering questions when I talk. And that's what I'm answering. I believe that we are absolutely at a prime time in history where if the Bible is real, I believe it is, but if it is real, we're going to see certain events take place in the next coming months that's going to line up with those things that are written. And I'm saying that Israel's going to get attacked. They're going to have a weapon used against them that, if you understand 38 and 39 of Ezekiel, those two chapters, it describes with every indication of nuclear fallout. So if that happens, we're going to be even that much closer to whatever the scriptures say. Russia and Persia, or what we know as Iran today, they've never been allies militarily ever in history, but they are right now. Those people are mentioned. Those countries are mentioned by name. And Turkey, that they're also mentioned. And it just so happens that, things have changed over in that country as well, moving towards the potential of doing very things that's described in 38 and 39 of Ezekiel. So, like I said, I'm probably offending a lot of you. Some of you in here are Muslim. Some of you in here are different faith, and some of you are atheists. And I understand, and it's not my intention. Like I said, I'm not trying to offend anyone. When we grew up in the States, they were always telling us, you don't talk politics and you don't talk religion. Well, those are the two topics I've talked about most of my life. So I'm not about to change now. Right? So just know that things are heating up. And if I'm right in my belief, and if the scriptures are actually happening, we're going to start seeing some really weird things, like really, really weird things. And I'm not taking any mark. I'm not taking any vaccine either. So you can read the book and find out what's probably going to happen to me. But nonetheless, I'm okay with that. I'm not doing it. So, but if you want to know more about that kind of stuff, or even interested in it, or just want to know what I'm thinking, not that, again, it has any bearing on what you believe, I'll probably have a thread created in the forum. It won't be a thread that's open. So, like I said, I'm not opening it up so somebody can come in here and pull out some kind of debate stage setting. It's not what this is. It would become too distracting. But I want to share what I believe. I want to share what I think and my opinions about how all this stuff fits together. And I'm not claiming to be some kind of prophet. I'm not trying to say anything. I want to share my view. And I don't have a lot of friends that share this view. So that's another reason why I want to do it, because nobody else sees it like this right now, except for people that have that passion to look for it. If you're not looking for it, you're not going to see it, I think. So I don't know. I just felt, the unction to do it. So I'm going to probably begin with that. I won't spend too much time with it unless things start really ramping up, and then I have a whole stream of things to talk about. But I'll still deliver the same level of commentary about the markets, and our focus is there. But I've wrestled with this since December. Like, I wanted to do it since December, and I didn't know really quite how to do it. But now, because of everything that's going on, I think it will at least get your gears turning. And again, it's not meant to offend anybody. I'm not trying to say, I'm smarter than anyone else, or you should do this and you should do that, because ultimately I believe this. If the God I believe in wants you, he'll find a way to draw you closer to him. And that's my belief. You can preach and preach and preach all you want. If he hasn't called that person, then they're not going to listen. That's why I don't believe in street preaching. That's why I don't believe in going around knocking on people's doors and telling them they're going to go to hell. No one's signing up for that when they hear that kind of message. I'm just going to tell you what I believe and leave it at that. So I will most likely be tickling your Twitter on Monday. I'm certain of it. I will talk to you by way of Twitter on Monday, and Lord willing, I will talk to you midweek review on Wednesday. If I start the thread prior to Wednesday, I will shoot you a tweet. Otherwise, it'll be in the link post for Wednesday's midweek review. All right. Be safe. Spend time with the kids. Hug the wife. Hug the husband. And I will catch up with you when I catch up with you.